Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dev Diary. And folks, strap in because I made a game based on a dream. So if you enjoyed today's video, remember to leave a like. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos. Now, I've had dreams about game ideas before, but this one was especially weird, and I think it's because this summer has just been so dang hot. And so we're just jumping straight into things because it's best to describe the project as we go. So here we have a top-down game where the player controls this random little humanoid in a random space filled with walls. This space is randomly generated and can be really big, really small, or really long. The player is able to put down their own colored walls with the left click. Which colors they can choose from is random and can be kept track of to the left of the screen. As walls are placed, they are removed from this list, and in order to generate new walls, the player must first fill the bar to the left of said list. And on a side note, I know the HUD is a mess, not a lot of time was spent on it. Now, in order to fill that bar, the player must remain in the shadows, which are represented by the checkered black and white pattern. The shadows slowly rotate over time, and believe it or not, were the toughest thing to get working right for one particular reason. This shadow is just one large object. See, in order to check if the player was actually in the shadow, I could only think to use a collision event. So the shadows are drawn to a sprite which has a precise collision mask. Originally, the shadow effect was supposed to be more dynamic, for example, stretching and skewing at angles as if being lit from, like one single light source. But surprise, surprise, shadows are a costly thing to calculate. And between generating individual shadows and the precise collision needed to pull off this mechanic, it just made sense to keep things simple. Though, watching this back now, the shadow collisions could have been handled differently and were severely overthought. Anyway, the whole reason for this wall placement mechanic is to get the player the ability to build their own quote-unquote defenses of sorts. Because occasionally, the level will spawn a dangerous stream of colored liquid, and this liquid is powerful enough to blast through any walls that aren't of the same color, or green. And should the player find themselves in the line of this hydro pump of doom, it's an instant game over. Thankfully, there is a brief window of warning before this event will occur, but once that stream has begun, walls cannot be placed within them. And it's very important that the player maintains pathways throughout the level, because in order to stay alive, they need to constantly collect these life tokens that appear in random places within that level. How much time the player has can be kept track of via the far right meter next to our wall list. Collecting the life tokens will reset the timer and spawn a new token somewhere else in the level. And really, that's the loop. Collect life tokens, avoid the water of doom, and create pathways with colored walls which are generated through the power of shadows. Now, I should note that this is actually the simplified version. The original visual style from my dream looked more like this, and was very specific, with the noted hyper color style and halftone shading. A very hyper pop art style mixed with the cleanliness of a medical ward. There was also this underlining sense of dread that seemed to play against the vibrant and more upbeat nature of the psychedelic visuals. It was hard to convey this visually, but this is why the player moves so slow. It's kind of meant to imply a sense of uneasiness, I guess. The water was also a lot less laser-like and more physics-oriented, but I don't know how to do liquid physics in gamemaker, let alone know if it's even possible. And before we continue, because that was quite a bit to take in, let's take a quick break so I can remind you that if you enjoy my videos and would like to help me keep making them, consider supporting me on Patreon. And so here's the thing, as interesting as it was to put this all together, what really drove me to bring this idea to reality was to figure out why. Because I can't remember the actual objective of the game. The life token idea was just added afterwards because there just needed to be some type of, stake. But I can remember so many details except how it's supposed to end, and so I guess today's entry is less of a dev diary for something I made and more of a dream diary where I try to make sense of the weirdness. Like I said, I've had ideas before, but they're almost never this vivid, and I think the heat frying my brain probably has something to do with it. So I don't know, this is weird. I guess my question this week is simply, what do you think of the idea, and Well, what do you think the original objective was? And you know, have you had any such weird and vivid dreams that just really stuck out to you? I'm kind of fascinated by this, so whatever it is, be sure to share your thoughts in the comments. And with that said, brings us to the end of today's Dev Diary, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.